Today, we are diving into a huge and honestly pretty confusing paradox shaken India. You've got a country that's churning out millions of college graduates every year, but at the same time, so many of them just can't find a job. So let's break down how on earth this is happening.
So yeah, this is the big question, right? How is it possible? You've got this incredibly young, educated, and ambitious population on one side, and on the other, this nagging, persistent crisis of unemployment. It just doesn't seem to add up.
Okay, to really get the scale of this, let's start with just one number. 1 crore. That's 10 million. It's roughly how many new graduates are flooding into India's job market every single year. Just think about that for a second. That is an absolutely staggering amount of human potential. And this chart, wow, it just lays it all out, doesn't it? Look at that towering bar representing 10 million graduates. And then look at the much, much smaller bar next to it for the actual jobs available. Only about a third of that number. This huge gap, this is ground zero for the entire problem.
All right, so where do we even begin to unpack this? Well, let's start with the supply side. Let's take a hard look at what the education system is actually producing.
And here's where you really see the problem. On one side, you have what colleges are teaching, a whole lot of theory, based on syllabi that are often pretty outdated. But then you look at what companies are crying out for, and it's practical, hands-on skills with the tools people are using today. There's this massive chasm between those two worlds.
So let's dig into that a little bit more. The system often just doesn't focus on skill-based training. You've got curricula that can be decades old. Seriously, some courses are still teaching accounting methods from the 90s when the world has moved on to AI-driven finance. And then, to make matters worse, career guidance is often, well, not great. So students are picking degrees without really knowing if there's any demand for them in the real world.
And this quote, man, it just says it all, doesn't it? This is the real-world result of that gap. You get an engineering graduate who has the degree, but can't actually code very well. Or a commerce graduate who doesn't have the data analysis skills that are absolutely crucial now. They have the paper, but not the practical ability to do the job.
Okay, so that's one half of the equation. Now, let's flip it around and look at the demand side. Because it's not just about unprepared graduates. The job market itself is being squeezed incredibly hard.
Seriously, just take a look at this chart. It is wild. It shows you how desperate people are for a secure government job. You've got this massive slice of over 2 million applicants, all fighting for that tiny, tiny sliver of a few thousand open positions. It's not a job hunt, it's basically a lottery.
So what's causing this squeeze? Well, it really boils down to two huge forces. First, key sectors like manufacturing just aren't growing fast enough to create all the jobs that are needed, often because of things like red tape and not enough investment. And second, technology. AI and automation. It's moving so fast that it's replacing a lot of traditional roles, making old skills obsolete almost overnight.
And the result of all this? You get this perfect storm. Millions of graduates, a lot of them with the wrong skills, all fighting for a shrinking number of good jobs. It creates this incredibly high-pressure environment where just having a degree isn't a golden ticket anymore, not even close.
But believe it or not, it goes even deeper than just supply and demand. There are these human and systemic issues baked into the whole structure that make this crisis so incredibly hard to solve.
And we absolutely have to talk about a word you'll hear a lot: underemployment. This is like a hidden crisis within the crisis. It's when someone actually has a job, so they're counted as employed. But that job is way below their skill level, their education, their potential. It's all being completely wasted.
And this quote, "This is what underemployment actually feels like." Can you imagine? You spend years of your life, and probably a fortune, getting an MBA, only to end up doing data entry. It's not just an economic loss for the country, it's a completely demoralizing and personal blow for that individual.
So what happens when people feel like this? Well, it leads straight into another huge problem: the brain drain. The cycle's pretty simple and pretty devastating. First, India invests a ton in educating its smartest, most skilled people. Then, those talented people look around, see a lack of good opportunities at home, and decide to leave for better prospects overseas. And in the end, the country loses the very minds it needs to innovate and grow.
And the hurdles just keep coming. Jobs are often all packed into a few big cities, which creates a huge urban-rural divide. A lot of private sector jobs, especially for new graduates, come with really low pay and zero job security. Then you've got things like corruption and nepotism, where who you know is more important than what you know. And on top of it all, there's not always great support for entrepreneurs, so we're not seeing enough new businesses pop up to create new jobs. It's like a minefield for graduates.
Okay, so let's tie all of this together. As we've seen, this isn't just one single problem. It's really a crisis of connection, where a bunch of different failures in the system are all feeding into each other. And this, right here, is probably the most important thing to understand. This isn't just a jobs problem. It's an education problem, it's an economic problem, and it's a societal problem. They're like these giant interlocked gears. You can't fix the job market without fixing education, but you can't fix education if there isn't a healthy economy to absorb all that talent. And it's hard to fix the economy without tackling deeper issues like corruption. Everything is connected.
So that's the system we've laid out, this complex machine that's producing millions of bright, ambitious, and ultimately unemployed young people. And it leaves us with one really big final question. What happens to a country if this doesn't change?